I'm Sarah Brown, and this is The Mothers, real conversations with leaders, creators, and thinkers about who we are, what we want, and how we build meaningful lives alongside motherhood. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Mothers. I'm Sarah Brown. We spend a lot of time talking about motherhood as an emotional transformation. But sometimes motherhood doesn't just change how you feel. It changes what you see. It makes visible all the systems at work, at home, in our culture that were never really built with mothers in mind. And once you see them, it can be very hard to unsee them. This week's guest is Patrice Meagher, founder and CEO of MilkMate, a breast pumping solution built specifically for workplace wellness rooms. But before MilkMate, Patrice spent more than 2 decades in commercial real estate, including nearly 15 years at CBRE, where she rose to executive vice president while simultaneously becoming a mother of 4. Oh my God. And it was in that overlap, building a demanding career while breastfeeding, pumping, commuting, producing, and trying to hold it all together, that she began to understand just how much friction working mothers are quietly carrying every single day. Not because they aren't capable, but because the systems around them are often wildly inefficient. In this conversation, Patrice and I talk about what partnership really looks like inside a marriage when both people are building ambitious lives. We talk about the mentors who shape us and how sometimes a single piece of advice can change the entire direction of your career. We talk about the tension between perseverance and knowing when it's time to leave something behind. And we talk about what it means to build a company, not from abstract innovation, but from lived experience, from a problem you know intimately because you lived it yourself. What struck me most about Patrice is that she didn't leave corporate America because she stopped believing in it. She left because she believed it could work better. And then she decided to help build the solution. If you're navigating work, partnership, caregiving, ambition, or simply trying to figure out what's worth carrying, this conversation is for you. And if your employer could benefit from MilkMate, speak up. If MilkMate gets installed based on your referral, you may be eligible for a $1,000 bonus. Patrice and her team have made it easy. You can find their employee referral toolkit at milkmate.com or through their Instagram bio. Speaking of, be sure to follow MilkMate on Instagram and LinkedIn. And if you're enjoying The Mothers, please follow, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen. It helps more than you know. And I feel annoyed having to ask. I'm sorry. You can also find us on Instagram at The Mothers Pod. And now, please enjoy my conversation with Patrice Meagher. Well, I'm so happy you're here, Patrice.
I'm so happy
this
I'm
is so
here.
cool.
Thank you for having me.
Likewise. I mean, thank you for having me. I'm excited to hear all about lactating.
I mean, of course, this is what we talk about all day long. It's like, who knew?
Let's lactate while we're talking. Let's do it now.
Exactly. I know. I've definitely said to my husband before, like, there's medicine you can take that would you could actually lactate. And he's like, okay, now you're really taking it too far.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What's the terminology when we were properly living in a village? There was a wet nurse who would be able to just feed your child on demand, exactly. Unrelated to being pregnant or having a child herself.
Exactly. And I think that actually it's really a lot of times for women that have surrogates. And so they want to end up being able to breastfeed their children, but, obviously weren't pregnant through the whole process. So it's like, how do you increase those hormones that you're able to do that? And I am not a doctor, nor am I speaking from any medical terms, but I've just heard about
that. Oh, well, we should start this over then.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought I was talking to a professional.
Yeah. I'm a lactation in the workplace professional, but not a doctor. So
there we go. And this, BPaaS, like you're creating a whole thing.
BPaaS, yes. Breast pumping as a service. I know.
I love this. We'll get into it more meaningfully.
Yeah.
I'm curious, was SaaS did you create this idea?
It was not part of the original plan. So the original plan with MilkMate, just to back up. So
we'll go way back. Don't worry.
Should we start? Are we starting? Or
do you want to start? We can start. That was top of mind question. Well, to answer this short, the BPaaS question was it a terminal? Was it a acronym before you existed or?
No, I mean, my husband definitely is the one who invented it essentially. And so really what happened is that we didn't start off as like a service or like longer term deals, but we evolved into that. So what we really started at was the initial goal and offering was to make it possible for women to bring nothing with them at all in order to pump it work. So we were the hardware. Right. But then over time, what we did was evolve into the service offering and all of the support for the users and then the customers who are the employers. And that's how we really evolved into being BPaaS, breast pumping as a service. And that was truthfully the best way we could describe our offering during the fundraise and during like education of what we were providing. And in an effort to like really explain it the best way possible, my husband is the one who came up with the term BPaaS, breast pumping as a service. And so now we're using it all the time, but we are definitely the first to use it. Yeah.
Does he get every time we say it, does he get a little something?
Because like it gets listed on like places and he's like, am I going to get credit for this? So yes, I give him full credit for that. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. We're going to go on a journey backwards back in time.
Okay, sure.
Usually we start in the beginning. It's this crazy thing I've thought of. We like hearing the origin story, really, of you. We will certainly obviously talk about MilkMate, but like what we're trying to learn about is who these incredible people are that are building these essential companies. We talked to a lot of founders. We also talked to a lot of people that are, surviving in corporate America and have big jobs in other ways. But would love to go back to Philly-ish girl, Patrice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
on the streets.
Yes, I guess if we go really far back, I graduated college in 2001, which was a very interesting time to graduate college because 9/11 happened shortly thereafter. So it sort of, was earth shattering for everyone, for a lot of people for obvious reasons, but for, young people as they were trying to pursue what they wanted to do, it was like the job market all of a sudden became very difficult. And I wanted to move to New York, but didn't have enough money to do it. And my parents were like, you're welcome to live with us, but we're not giving you any money to move to New York. And so, I had graduated college with a communications major and film studies minor. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do.
Film studies minor.
I know.
Cool.
But
where'd that come from?
But really, that was because I like love movies and I still love movies, but I don't think I would be creative and like, I had someone in my life tell me like, why do you want to be involved with films? It's like, because I love them, but it's like, what are you good at? Like, you should be doing what you're good at. And really, I was good at sales and networking. And so my first job out of college was working for the Philadelphia Orchestra, which is a nonprofit organization in Philly. And the reason I took that job is because truthfully, in 2001, when I was networking, someone told me like, oh, do you know anything about development or fundraising? That's a really good career for women. Why? Because like that's just what it mostly has been, all women. And so I went to do an informational interview at the Philadelphia Orchestra and someone was supposed to show up like to work that day and they never showed up. And so all of a sudden it turned into an interview. And I remember telling my dad that I think I got a job offer and he was like, nonprofit, like you're going to work in nonprofit. You've got to be kidding me. Like I thought that he worked in commercial real estate. But at the time he told me I should meet with this guy named Bill Rouse, who is arguably the most famous real estate developer that changed the skyline in Philadelphia because he made it possible to build higher than William Penn's hat at City Hall in Philadelphia. So that's the reason the Comcast towers are there and things like that. And he built the Convention Center and the Kimmel Center for Performing Arts, but he was a huge real estate developer. He's since passed away. But my father said, you should go talk to him. And actually, he gave me really good advice. He said, you should take this job because you're going to learn about what makes a city tick. What makes a city tick? It's real estate, it's arts, it's the people, it's education, it's hospitals, things like that. And the board members of the Philadelphia Orchestra are the most powerful business people in Philadelphia. So if you get to know them and you show them that you can add value, you will have endless opportunities when you leave the Philadelphia Orchestra. And he was 100% right. It was a great first job out of school. The networking was insane. About 3 years
in. The music was awesome.
The music was amazing. I mean, honestly, the Philadelphia Orchestra is, I'm a big orchestra person, but like
I play the violin, so I'm nerding out on the fact that this is true.
No,
I love it.
I met Yo-Yo Ma. I met like some really nice people. And I mean, it was definitely a great, like first out of school job. I was pretty in debt the whole time because working at a nonprofit, there's just not that much money to be made, is at entry level at least. And so about 3 years in, I made the decision that while I love the arts and the nonprofit world, I would rather go try to the other route of making my own money so that I could give back in some way in the future. And so that's how I got into commercial real estate. And the origin story as it pertains to commercial real estate is that I spent 20 years in commercial real estate, a few years on the ownership side in Philadelphia before moving to New York and joining the brokerage side. And so I represented landlords throughout Manhattan. I've done millions of square feet worth of leasing, which means I understand design of space, cost of construction, tenants mindset, landlords mindset, regulations around wellness, all that kind of fun stuff. And while I was working in brokerage, I had 4 children. I breastfed all of them. And when I had my first son in 2009, there was no laws in place for providing private pumping space. And so this was nothing against my employer. It was totally
Yeah.
industry agnostic at the time. So women who were lawyers, doctors, nurses, we were all pumping in IT closets and bathrooms. Honestly, I always say to my team, that was 2009. It didn't dawn on me to ask for anything better. It's just not the generation we were raised as. So didn't really last that long because it was so difficult. Fast forward to my other 3 kids, laws had changed, but I still had to, walk up 3 flights of stairs through a whole bullpen of men. Commercial real estate's mostly all men, to get to a room to realize I forgot a part. What happens if you forget a part? You can't actually do it. It's a whole domino effect of issues. Now I'm late for a meeting, leaking milk. And at the same time, so I pumped off and on for about 8 years. And I always say 2 things happen as it pertains to MilkMate. One, I became this expert in the efficiencies and the inefficiencies of pumping in the workplace. Like, what can I do to make it better? Leave a pump, find out who else is pumping, share tips and, stories with them about ways to make it easier. And then secondly, arguably more important as it pertains to MilkMate, I became the loudest person in the room, helping landlords, architects, tenants, designers design best-in-class wellness rooms. And I couldn't believe there wasn't a better service offering. Like, there's a great service offering for coffee, for bathrooms, for design, for amenities. But how come it's so difficult in today's day and age to make it easier for women to pump at work? And truthfully, my obsession around all of this is around time and efficiency, and how you make the life of the working parent work is through efficiency. And there was nothing more inefficient that I did at work than pumping. And so that's really where MilkMate was born.
Yeah. And you were commercial real estate still, but even then, and we're not that old, you were probably not, like, the woman's voice was probably not one that anyone was hearing that much. And so this issue was probably not anyone people were thinking about that much. Is that fair to say, or no?
No, definitely. I mean, but I think that, like, the truth is, like I said before, I wasn't like stomping my feet or raising my hand to talk about it, because you're then like admitting that you're going into a room to like take your clothes off, or you're admitting that you're like taking time out of this day. And when you work in commercial real estate, time is money. Every, call you're able to make, every tour you're able to do leads to it's all fully commission based. So that's the only way for you to make money, is all based on your own time. And so, like, it definitely was. We always say it's a silent struggle. It's still a silent struggle today. It's not something that people are shouting from the rooftops. And, obviously a lot of what we do is around education, but I loved my job. I loved what I did. I mean, commercial real estate is very interesting, as you know, I'm sure, or just real estate in general, from your family.
My husband, my family.
My family, your people. So, but it wasn't something that was talked about, it wasn't. And I wasn't even like, I was definitely like talking about it we used to say we're like the secret society of pumpers. Right. And so we would talk about it with each other, and we would loan each other, pumps and parts and things like that. But it was more like, I was just more focused on making sure that I was performing at work, producing at work, being as valuable as possible, and then also performing at home. So, like, the friction in the middle, I couldn't waste time talking about, because I didn't have time for it,
Yeah.
Well,
I want to go back just a little bit, because I was struck by, in the beginnings of you kind of figuring out how to navigate or build a professional path, it was your dad. There were dudes that were giving you wisdom. I love hearing about, like, these nudges that in retrospect really were helpful, and where they're coming from. Was your dad, you mentioned he worked in commercial real estate. Is that right?
He's passed away. Yes. He was in commercial real estate forever. So he was definitely my main mentor in business, especially when I was in real estate. And my brother, my older brother, worked closely with him too. So they were definitely people that I would call in the beginning and be like, is this real? What's happening? Because it's like, it's a very cutthroat industry. So a lot of what happens in the sales in the beginning of your career can be very difficult. But my dad was really great, because if I called him panicking about something, he would say, all right, is anyone bleeding? And I'm like, no. He's like, all right, we're good. like no,
Yeah.
this is not like, brain surgery or anything like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, he was definitely extremely influential in
Hmm.
how I operated because he was very old school in the sense that like, um, never, you can't quit. You just like cannot quit. You have to like be the first one in the door, the last one out the door. So like,
Yeah.
almost to like the bad extreme to the
Yeah.
point where like, I think the reason it took me so long to rip the Band-Aid was because I definitely had like that in my head that like, you don't quit. And so like,
Mm.
even when I left commercial real estate in Philadelphia and moved to New York, he was very upset about that
Mm.
because in commercial real estate, it's very industry driven. And so I'd, done all this work to understand the Philadelphia market and the surrounding markets. And so he was like, if you move to New York, you have to start all over. So he was
Mm.
anti that, but I was moving for my husband. So wasn't happy about
Oh.
that either. But he
Oh.
got happy
Yeah.
about it over time once we were able to like, build our own careers here.
Yeah.
But yes, he was definitely very influential in everything I did.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you had kids. Do you have your first kid once you were in New York, or when did
Yeah. So moved
you
to
have
New
like
York.
2,500 children, 4 kids
Yeah.
total?
4 kids. Yeah. Total. Yes. So far. I'm kidding. So we moved to New York in 2007, which also, so like, there's like a theme here. It's like I graduated college in '01
Hmm.
and then had it to like, have my career from '01 till '07. We moved to New York in 2007. My husband and I both started our jobs in August of 2007.
Mm.
Super interesting time because
Yep.
then the real estate market and everything else went to shit.
Everything.
And
Yes.
so, but, and then we started MilkMate during COVID. So my feeling and belief is that starting your career in down markets or trying times is better because you have to like work harder and like learn your product
Hmm.
better, learn the market better, and be smarter. And
Mm.
otherwise, sometimes I think it's it's a downfall if you start in like a really high market where everything comes easy. Cause then when it
Totally.
crashes, you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to read a lease. I don't know how to follow up correctly in an email. It's like when you start in a down market, you're just forced to like learn things more. So I always think that for me, that was a blessing in '01, then in '07, and then in 2020 when I started MilkMate.
Yeah. Also a good mindset for buying real estate, right? Buy the
Totally.
low.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Okay. So then you had four in
Oh, yes. Sorry.
meaningfully close
Yes. Moved to
succession.
New York
Yeah.
in '07. I had my first son in '09 and then 11, 13, and 16. So
Wow.
kind of quick.
Were you, did having kids, were you like, oh my God, can I have kids while I'm doing this job? Was it that kind of a vibe, or how did bringing kids into the world while managing this big career?
Yeah. I mean,
How
I'm
did we
one of
juggle that?
5. My husband's one of 6. His dad is one
Mm.
of 10. My mom's one of 7. So it was always like definitely part of the reason why we got along is we definitely wanted to have a big family.
Yeah.
But I definitely was very different, I think, even still today than people that I know that are pregnant because, like, when I was pregnant, I would be like, I don't want it to come out because I would be like, I have to like get so much done. I want to like,
Yeah.
there's so much I want to do at work before I leave. And,
Yeah.
but I was on maternity a lot during that 8-year time period. Right. So like I
Yeah.
definitely watched a lot of my male peers, like we were sort of like this together growing up. And then it was like, they started to go like this. And again,
Yes.
it wasn't my employer's fault. It just like,
Yep.
it's time. It's all about
Hmm.
time and productivity. And so that was hard. But
Yeah.
what I always say about, especially when I worked in commercial real estate, is that while everything changed, like I moved to New York, got married, started having kids, stayed in New York, moved to the suburbs, lost my father, all this other things, that all changed, big life changes. At least I
Yeah.
could walk in the door at my old job and I knew exactly what to do. So like
Yep.
that gave me great comfort in terms of like at least holding on to some version of myself that became way different when I became a mom.
Yeah.
So
I do think there are reasons, seasons, so
yeah,
cliche, reasons
yeah,
and seasons, but work plays a different role at different times of life.
totally.
I know a lot of people who stayed strong at Google, not because they loved it, but because it was like, it was the stable thing for them. Now it's all crazy,
It
but
was like the one thing that
yeah,
they were able to be like, okay, I know how to do this. Like, okay, like I don't know how you felt, but like the first time I had my son in 2009, like when the nurse came in, I'm like, you have to change his diaper. And she's like,
Totally.
I know, but you have to do it too. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know how to do it. It's like, you don't know how to do any of these things. And I'm
Yeah.
still dealing with it from like, now that I have teenagers, it's like, that's a whole nother freaking
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah.
So
Does being a mom make sense even now? Are you like, I'm a mom? Does that make sense to you?
I think
Or do
my
you think of
life is
yourself as,
obsessed by moms. So like
yeah.
my entire mission at MilkMate is to empower working moms and the
Yeah.
working parents and the employers that support them. But like so much of, I never would have thought that I would have started a breast pump company, but that's
Yeah.
obviously because I was a mom, and
Hmm.
so, um, I definitely look, I think that a lot of times, like even during COVID, when we were fundraising, people would say like, oh, like now that COVID happened, like women just aren't going to go back to work. And I would be like,
Mm.
I know, but you forget that I work not only because I need to support for my family, but I also, as part, in partnership with my husband, but I also do it because I want to. This is something that I've
Yeah.
always wanted to do. I'm passionate about it, but I've um, given up a lot along the way. And so there's like, there's a lot of regret still there in terms of things
Mm.
that I missed when the kids were little and um, trying to solve that for the next generation. But it's still, you know,
Yeah.
it's what is, the mothering part is the most stressful, for
Yeah.
anyone. I don't care what you do, whether you stay home or you are at work or, hardest job in the world.
Tell me about that, the things we miss. Because I think one thing we like to ask about is like this idea of regrets or sacrifices kind of in service of, we're all operating in different parts of our lives. But obviously, like the classic example is, I won't take X job because it's demanding in certain ways that won't allow me to be present in certain ways at home, is the sort of cliched version. There are a lot of more nuanced answers to that. But, and then the end of the story ends up often being they don't regret it, but they're sort of like, I wish it didn't have to be that way, but maybe that is
Yeah.
life. How do you think about that? You sounded actually sad. Like you couldn't have
Yeah.
been there.
I mean,
What
I
do you think
feel
about
like
it now?
I try to spend a lot of time with folks that have, been through similar situations and are still
Yeah.
evolving. As I always say, it's an evolution, not a revolution. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, a friend of mine, Stephanie Kramer, I don't know if you know, she wrote the book Carry
Mm-hmm.
Strong. It's about navigating pregnancy in the workplace. It's definitely like the best book I've read about like
Mm-hmm.
that sort of time period. Um, and, we spend a lot of time helping women that are within that time period. But she's like, you can have it all, just not at once. And you just
Yeah.
have to like, be okay with that. Um, Sometimes I get upset that like you have to live through torture or whatever
Yeah.
to just get to the other side to find solutions for things. But look, I always say the odds are in my favor because I have a great husband. I have got healthy children.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of great women peers that are, in all different types of industries and seasons of life that are
Mm-hmm.
championing each other. But it was very hard for me to make it work. And so what about the women where the odds are not in their favor, where they have a sick child
Yeah.
or a single mom
Yes.
or sick parent or, you know, what are we doing for these people? And so that's what I try to think about all the time, but try to think about
Yeah.
everything I have to be grateful for as much as
Yeah.
possible.
That is
Although
true. And
my cousin
yeah.
was here. I don't know if you think like that all the time. you know,
So so you're in this sort of stable job, doing very
yeah.
well, big role. And what kind of came together? What was was there a nagging thought? Like, how did we get from crushing it in a stable, sort of understood job to let's try something new, let's try to build something and moving into the milkmate land and
Yeah.
entrepreneurship?
So we were definitely thinking about MilkMate for a very long time. I say we because it sort of came to me in a few different ways, but
Yeah.
and my husband was the only person I shared it with. So we were talking about it a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
I was at a point in my career where you say like crushing and stable. It was crushing, but it was not stable in the sense that like I was, I loved my team. I loved my company. I loved my product. I loved my
Mm-hmm.
clients. I loved the business. and obviously love my children at the same time. But everything was like, it was unsustainable in the sense that like I was so busy at work and I was so busy at home. And I'm the type person that if like one ball drops, I can't handle that. And balls were
Yeah.
dropping like all over the place, right? Just because there was like literally not enough time in the day to make sure that what needed to happen at work was going to happen and what needed to happen at home was going to happen. And like, sometimes my husband would say to me, well, like, you should just, you know, don't do this at work or don't do this at home. But it's like
Yeah.
that. And actually, one of the things that drove me towards doing MilkMate is that like I found that when I was pumping, especially with my last, and I knew that he was my last. And so I pumped much longer with him. Like one of my best friends was like, okay, like you're busy at work. You can't quit your job. You're busy at home. You can't quit being a mom. So you have to quit pumping. That's the only solution. And so that's what sort of drove me to be like, okay, this, like, why is, again, the odds are in my favor. I'm like it was the best year of my career in 2019 from a financial perspective. I've got these like great, healthy kids at home. I've got good childcare. I've got a good husband. I've got a good group of friends, and I'm miserable and stressed out. And like, that was really what kind of pushed me over the edge to say like, okay, let's go try this because A, I want to pay it forward and help other people. B, I don't think it's a good enough answer to say like, just quit something that you want to do in order to maintain the other things. And so early 2020, I came back into work and I said, look, I need to take a breather because this is not sustainable. I'm going to crash and burn at some point. And it took me 3 months to unwind the things that I was working on. And my last day in the office was March 6th, 2020. So what happened a week later? The whole world shut down. And I was, I became basically like a teacher for my children at home. But it did give me the window of time to start doing the research and development about whether or not what I thought could be the solution to this problem existed, or if we could form something that would exist. And then also if the market was there for it. And spoiler alert, the market is just humongous and
desperate for it. Yeah.
There is need for it and desperate for it. And so that's what really pushed me over the edge. That was the 100% the hardest thing in the whole journey, because I did have my dad in the back of my head being
I was going to say, how'd you decide to quit? Like where
it was
where
because
did your own voice come from? Yeah.
So bad. There was like, just to give you one example, and this was like basically how I was living my life every single day. So like my daughter at the time was on the swim team, and I would never make it to swim meets. It was just like, no way. And she basically was like, I want you to come to the swim meet, and like never asks anything. So that's happening on the home front. And then we got invited to a really important client meeting, which actually I loved the client. I loved reporting to them. It was like their whole board of directors, and we were going to report on, what we were planning for the year, what we were planning for the next year. And so I said to my bosses, like, look, I got to be on the train. I will call in. I'll be available. I'll be ready to speak, but I got to go. I can't miss this. And so they're like, okay. So I'm on the train. I'm on the call. It's like coming in and out of service. It's like next stop, Larchmont. It's like, I'm like pausing it in and out. I get in the car. I don't know where I'm going because the swim meet is away. And I like, I've got my computer open. I'm driving to get there, probably like not focusing on the road. I get to the swim meet. I can't find a parking place. So I park illegally. I run in and I see her touch the wall. And I was like, I missed the meeting that I really wanted to be at. I got a parking ticket. I missed the swim meet. And like that was my life at all times. It was like a constant juggle of like trying to please everyone. And I felt like I was on this hamster wheel of if I get off, everything will come crashing down. So I have to stay on it. But I was working on really, really very interesting transactions. Like there's nothing more, I think, critical to New York City than the commercial real estate in terms of the tenants that come here and the thought processes that happen. I worked on the Google transaction for 10 years. It was
cool.
So interesting. And, but I just was like, this is not sustainable to keep going like this. But my dad was very, very much like, you do not quit. Like that, the poem Don't Quit was in his funeral program book. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So like, I just was like, I've been trained to like never quite. So I almost thought that I would be like disappointing him by doing that
Yeah.
in some way. Um, but I mean, I think he would be very proud now. But some part of me is like, if I, at the time, like when I told my family what I was going to do, they were like, what? Like you're starting
Yeah.
a company for the workplace.
Yeah.
It's very commercial real estate driven, but
Sure.
I do think that that is a mental load that a lot of people in our generation had just because of the way we were raised.
Yeah.
And
I think
this,
there's a lot of like, you have to shed some stuff in order to like
yeah,
move into this, to grow into you. I mean,
yeah,
yeah. I totally get it. And the never giving up, not quitting. Yeah. Doing everything, being able to do it all without it seeming hard, like
yeah.
holding it all together. Did you see, were there, dads in the workplace that were also somehow feeling this way or operate like what did you see among the male side of people that you were
Well,
working with?
yeah, it's funny. I don't know that they felt exactly the same way, but I never
Yeah.
felt like I actually was very surprised, like when I was pregnant with my first son, that it brought me closer to a lot of my peers in the office because they were all having
Hmm.
children at the
Yeah.
same time. And I remember being like so pleasantly surprised by that because I was like, oh,
Hmm.
I actually thought I was building more of a wall between them. But then we became closer in some ways because we were like, I used to joke around that there was a guy in my office that I would say he's my best mom friend in the city. And he'd be like, please stop telling people that.
I love
But
that. I
he was,
totally agree. I
yeah,
always felt like when I
yeah.
had kids, I was like, oh my God, there's this, everyone's been playing this whole other video game this whole time. And
I
like
know.
now
Oh
I
my
can
God, now they're
participate.
friends with like it was funny, like they all like wanted to be friends and like
Yeah.
more. And I was like, okay, now we're closer to each other because we have
Yeah.
this like common bond of having babies at the same time, which is just like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
uh, you know,
But they weren't, so for the way you describe it, which is
oh,
unfortunately
like,
not a unique story, where it's just basically dropping balls on all sides, feeling like you're not delivering the way you want to be able to deliver on all sides. I don't hear that story enough from dads. They must be feeling it on some level, but what do you make of that?
yeah, I mean, look, I feel like when my kids were little, my husband and I would do the like 6:30 p.m. call, like who's going to get home, like,
Yeah.
who's going to make it? All right. There would always be this sort of tit for tat over who got to do what or like go to the gym or do whatever. I just think that like innately they don't feel as guilty or
Mm.
something. I don't
Hmm.
know. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I was, you know, and also like my husband will say, like, you want to partner on things, but then you like sort of demand to do things too. So like, you know,
Only if it's done a certain way.
yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
exactly. So I think it's like Eve Rodsky says like the 80-20 rule or something, or like,
Mm.
you do all have to like clearly communicate about, who does what and things like that. But, um, I feel like there were some dark days early on when we were like, trying to figure out how to make it work. Right.
Yeah. I
The
think we don't
division
talk
of
about it a
labor.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard solo. I mean, it's a team effort and the team has never done this before.
Yeah.
Suddenly we're
You don't
like,
know how to do it. It's
oh, we're
totally
raising children?
training. I know. It's so weird.
Yeah.
But I worked
How
with
have you?
men that were very involved with,
Yeah.
with their children. And so I think, you know, I didn't necessarily I just felt like they had more time in the office. So I didn't
Hmm.
necessarily feel like a lot of people didn't understand the idea of being a parent and how much your children are your most prized possession and how much you love them and want them
Hmm.
to be successful. But I just felt like and they didn't have to have the attack on their body.
There's definitely, that's true.
Right.
I
They
also
didn't
think
have to
about it
go
as like
through fertility or pregnancy or childcare or
yeah.
maternity or coming back to work and feeling the way you
Yes.
do. Like I think when you're breastfeeding, you're still pregnant. So, but then you're
Oh, yeah.
expected to do a lot of the same things, right? Like you're back to
Yes.
work. You still have to make sure you drink enough water, eat a certain way,
Hmm.
get enough sleep in order to provide for
Yeah.
your child, but you're also expected to get back to work and just be the original version of yourself.
Yes.
Whereas men don't have to deal with that.
Correct. They do. I've heard this idea that it takes maybe 5 years to kind of recover your identity or sense
Yeah.
of self. You feel, has that held up for you? What do you think about that?
I think that goes back to where I thrived at work because I gave me that feeling like I was still the person I was before I had kids or
Mm.
before I had to
Yeah.
partner on things. And so I felt like a sense of comfort in that. Um, but yeah, I mean, geez, it's like the second you find out you're pregnant with your first kid, it's just, it's everything changes, you know,
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
still changing. I'm like, this is still,
Yeah. So you leave to do more research on what
yeah,
became MilkMate. This wasn't a story, it sounds like, of you kind of built this business on the side. It was getting traction. And then I left my main gig to do the side hustle, which became the main. This was
yeah,
a
I had a
break,
little
a
bit
little
of
bit.
work going on but I was
Yeah.
mostly focused on MilkMate. And so did a lot
Yeah.
of the development and then came up with the product, the actual product, and then did fundraising in order to be able to build the team and get FDA clearance and start selling. And so
Yeah.
2020 ripped the band-aid, 2022 did a fundraise, a seed fundraise. 23 got FDA clearance. So our product is an FDA cleared device, medical device, and then started piloting it right after that with clients that I had worked with in commercial real estate. So they were really
Mm-hmm.
generous with that in order to let us see like what the user liked, what the customer liked, what worked, what didn't work, and then really launched sales in the fall of 23 and have been selling ever since.
Yeah. I didn't so the setup includes a pump piece, or is it like you partner with Medela or so and so and
No,
bring
no.
that
So
in? No.
MilkMate is so the core offering, like our, is that we provide a hospital grade multi-user pump. It's the MilkMate pump. What does that mean? It
That's
means
awesome.
it's cleared by the FDA. It's safe for multi-users. It's high performance. And we design it to be really familiar. So if you use any other pump on the market, you're likely going to be able to use our pump, although we do educate. The biggest innovation by far is that we provide all the kits that are associated with it. And our
Mm-hmm.
kits come pre-assembled, pre-sterilized, ready for immediate use. So there's no setup at home, no setup
Mm-hmm.
at work, no breakdown at work, no breakdown at home. Most women on average are pumping 2 to 4 times daily. So we're saving them 60 minutes of time per day to be more productive at work, more productive at home, feel valued, seen. So it's a regulation tool, a return to work tool, a recruiting tool, an advancement tool, and just like a wellness amenity in general. That's the core offering. But we also can provide furniture as needed to elevate the room if they need us to. We consult on what's what the regulatory laws say that you as an employer need to do, and then we service. So we track all the inventory. We speak with the women. We provide up to 8 sizes of kits. We've recently launched pumping perks partnerships, so women get access to discount codes on things like coterie diapers and roller rabbit
Roller
pajamas and
Rabbit, I saw.
yeah,
Yeah.
exciting.
That's great.
Um, and so we are pro mom. We're not, anti formula. But we are trying to extend beyond just the pumping journey and just to make sure that we can touch all working parents as much as possible. So the
Yeah.
cool thing about BPaaS is that as we upgrade our product and offering and make it better and our service, all of our existing customers get access to that. So it's evolves
Mm-hmm.
into being this, A plus plus user who we treat like the customer and customer experience. The employer pays for everything. So
Mm-hmm.
women can walk into work with nothing at all, go into the room, grab her size kit, pump, recycle the kit,
Yeah.
leave at the end of the day with her milk. So and what we
Yeah.
hear, because of the way that we measure the impact is based on minutes saved. So we can report
Mm-hmm.
back to an employer,
Wow.
we saved you 68 work days this year just based on the usage that you've had. But what we're really hearing is that this relief of the mental load is what's really
Yeah.
the number one benefit. So
Yeah.
that excites me, obviously.
Why do companies say no? Like, what are they? Are they like,
Yeah,
no, we'll
I
get
know.
by with the closet?
Um,
Who maybe they won't have kids.
no, I think like it's true because like we do get that feedback. Like we have a room with
Yeah.
kid, and like then that's where the education comes in. Because look, like I said, like when I told my team what I was going to do, like one of my partners who again was, great to work with was like, I didn't know you pumped at work. We worked together for 15 years. It's like
Mm.
not something that you're shouting from the rooftop. So like
Hmm.
if women are complaining about it, they think that things are good. There's a common thread between all of the organizations that we're working with. And we always just say they're the organizations that are daring to be great for their
Mm.
employees. And so that's our ideal customer and that's who we're going after. And it's as easy as looking at like the 500 best places to work in the country. Those
Yes.
conversations are easier. The pushback that we get is on literally, it's just not really understanding how serious the problem is in terms of how, cumbersome the whole process is. And then also people will say like, oh, it's such a small subset of the employee base that it's not worth the money to be spent on it. I mean, which is like,
Yeah.
look, we really very much believe in the drip effect, pun intended,
Yeah.
that it's helping all employees. It's helping the team. It's helping from a recruiting standpoint. It's helping from a regulation standpoint. So there are folks that give us that pushback at first, and then we are able to say, let us just educate you a little bit more. And the way that we see the best benefit is by piloting with these large customers. Once we get into a location, expansion happens almost immediately because they
Yeah, I
see the
bet.
benefit of it really quickly. Even if there's
Mhm.
one user, the ROI is there in terms of retention and the cost to replace talent and
Mhm.
things like that. And look, there's also women that work in non-standard office space. So like the Pump Act was passed in 2023. It's a federal law that requires employers of any size to provide a private separate pumping space that's not a bathroom with close proximity to running water and the time in which to do it. That was really
Mhm.
aimed at women working in retail, manufacturing, distribution that were having to
Mhm.
clock out when they went to pump and having no place to do it. So
Mhm.
the idea here is that it should be, across all industries that you're, providing the time and the space in which to do this. And so a lot of it's just education. And by the way,
Yeah.
like architects and designers and real estate developers, they weren't trained in lactation. So like
Right. Yeah.
we're meant to be the eyes and ears of what best practices are. And so that's a big part of our time is around education. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say the biggest pushback is we have a room, we're good.
Right.
Or
Mhm.
frankly, they just really are historically known as being a toxic work environment. That's not an ideal
Yeah.
customer for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they just, it's a lack of understanding. And so it's our job to explain it to them.
Yeah. What
So
was fundraising like in this world where I hear plenty of stories that it's still very male oriented and like
yeah,
somehow mothers are not a big enough market sometimes, which is obviously
I know.
crazy.
I know.
What was your experience? I also bet you were well equipped for this, having sold, in a male quote unquote ecosystem before. But yeah, tell me the bad stories because I feel like there are
Yeah.
too many
Um,
still, and people need to
well,
know.
there's no fun in fundraising. Although, so
Yeah.
we raised money for a seed round and we just closed our Series A round too. And
Yeah.
it's all friends and family or like, people that we've
Oh wow.
met. It's all individual investors.
Cool.
We do have a really strong cap table that includes a lot of really awesome women, which I'm really proud
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
And, but I do think that things that equipped me. So commercial real estate, you have to
Hmm.
live with like a tremendous amount of rejection and pushback.
Yeah.
So like, I think I'm very well equipped for any sort of rejection. I don't get down. I mean, I get down, but it's easy for me to get back up. And my
Hmm.
dad used to always say the sale doesn't start till the customer says no. And so like, that's
Yeah.
how we sort of track everything.
Yeah.
Um, but we just were trying to be really smart about, um, knowing the market, knowing like creating a product that really there's no one else doing the same thing, not the same way that we are doing it. And I think because I started this later in my life, I was able to build like a really strong network of people that
Hmm.
believed in me and my knowledge of commercial real estate and also my knowledge of the inefficiencies of being a working parent. And so sort of unique in that sense, right? Like if you
Yeah.
talk to there's not really any VC firms that are focused on commercial real estate and working parents. So um,
Hmm.
I think that it was, and look, I loved doing it in the sense that, like, look, I did get some rejection, but I learned something from every person that I met with.
Yeah.
And even if like they would ask the questions or reasons why they wouldn't invest or why they would invest, it was, but it's hard. You have to put yourself out on the line way more than I ever had to in commercial real
Yeah.
estate because when I was working in commercial real estate, when the weekend came, I didn't talk about my job. Like
Hmm.
that was a rule for me. I don't even know that my friends really knew exactly what I did. But
Yeah.
now, because I am like, was constantly pitching it to friends and family, I have to be open to talking about it all the time.
Oh.
And that's been hard, but also
Mhm.
exciting as we continue to grow. And I think there's going to be a really good ending of the
Yeah.
fundraising story. And so that's what we're focused on right now. Our number one priority and focus right now is on growth and perfection of the customer and user experience. And
Mhm.
then so that we can eventually create something that's really valuable.
Yeah. Wonderful. I very much understand now my work is kind of what I talk about and sort of have to think about all the time. Strikes me as you were talking about life at CBRE where you had reached this place where it was on all the time, everywhere, everything's falling apart, kind of,
Yeah.
and then leaving and starting your own company as some sort of solution to this. And I'm curious,
Yeah. No,
is it
totally.
true? Like, I feel like I've heard this story a lot where it's like, so then I just went somewhere and now I work 24/7, but I work for myself.
Yeah.
How has it evolved for you?
I mean, I feel like when you work in commercial real estate, you have to be there all the time
Yeah.
because you can't say I'm not going to be there to tour space or do whatever. So I think this gave me the ability to sort of like, even though I am thinking about it all the time or working a lot, still working a lot of, hours, and I'm able to be like a little bit more flexible around the way that I do it, or like, I never would have gotten my kids on the bus at my old job, but I
Mm-hmm.
do that now. And then I can get to work and I can work from home some days. And so, but I, I have to give a lot of credit to my husband because I don't think if he hadn't have been so like my silent co-founder in it and like really believe in like the potential for this as a company that's really focused on ARR and, the service aspect of it and creating a really valuable company, that I would have done it because, we were partners for so long in terms of like the income that had to
Yeah.
build our lives. And so obviously I lost that income. And
Mm-hmm.
so he had to work harder in some aspects in order to make sure that we could, continue our lifestyle the way that we wanted to. And, um, he has never, ever like once said like, if anything, it's me saying like, oh God, I like miss my old existence sometimes. Like it would
Yeah.
just be easy to go back to that. And he has always been the biggest champion and supporter of it. And
Yeah.
I think because we like, had to, pay for everything ourselves always, we
Yeah.
like, he's not like, he wasn't really afraid of it, of
Yeah.
us like having to lose income, the income that I worked so hard to get to, um, in order to go build something that we think it can be really exciting and valuable too.
Yeah.
And make an
Yeah.
impact. Like, how do you measure the value of a company? You measure it through profitability, growth, and impact. And I think that we are in a really unique situation to hit all three in a really exciting way, which is different than other types of companies. So I think
Yeah.
he believes that very much. And so he's always been a supporter of like, even though like I had that voice in my head, don't quit. He was like, no, go do this. Now he's saying,
Mm.
don't quit this, right? Obviously. Um, but he
Keep
has
going.
always
Yeah.
been that person who says like, keep going, or like, no, we should do this. We should try to make it
Yeah.
happen. So
I love that. And thank you for sharing that. Cause I think, I don't know, as maybe this is yet another thing we inherited in our pseudo
yeah,
generation of like fiercely independent people. And in some way being dependent is weakness or risky
totally
and,
weird.
yeah. And I think, yeah. And yet also we are married. These are our partners for life and we need to lean on them. And sometimes that looks a little bit maybe like someone else is carrying the financial load for a little bit while I go off and build something that's
Yeah.
potentially awesome. But the way that I hear a lot of stories that make me stunned. My husband is the biggest supporter of me. Thank God. It sounds a lot like your husband.
Yeah.
But there are not, I hear a lot of stories where that's not true.
I know.
And I'm wondering if you have any for those listening who are like, I want to
I
take a
know.
risk. Like
I know. It's so
what's sort of
funny.
what do you
Yeah.
say?
I know. Well, there's like, look, I actually love listening to podcasts about like failed businesses because I'm just
Yeah.
like, the ones that make it seem like everything is okay are like, I mean, look, my husband and I are like, part of the reason we probably work is that we like battle on like ways
Yeah.
to get things done. And we're constantly debating things and like,
Yeah.
like who can get home and, that initial like conflict of like, who's going to leave work early at 6:30 when we're both like early in our careers, things like that.
Yeah.
But look, I do think that, people say, do you wish you started the company when you were like 28 versus starting it in your early 40s? And I was like, if I was late 20s, I would have so much more energy. And so that would have been like the benefit of that and less people to worry about. But by starting it when I did, I had some more like financial liberty in order to take this risk. And so I think that there are definitely people that, like don't have that, privilege of being able to like have worked all these years to get to a point where I can take that leap. And so I'm sympathetic to that too, right? It's like
Yeah.
you, um, it's hard
Yeah.
and it's hard to ask other people for money in order to help you get done what you need to get done. But I would say like my biggest advice for people is like, if you are the unique person to solve a certain problem and you can provide the solution to that problem and there's a market for it, then you should do it. It's like you always think that a lot of these people start these things and they're just like, these like superheroes or something. It's like they're just all regular people that were just uniquely situated to solve a problem and there's a market for it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
so,
they did it.
and
It's
they
like
just did
modern
it.
art.
It's like literally just taking the step to do it. That's it. Like
Yeah.
people are like, how did you find your engineer? I'm like, I just Googled like medical device. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there wasn't anything. And now with AI, there's like a lot more resources, obviously, in
Oh
order
my
to
God.
figure out what you want
Yes.
to do. But it doesn't take, you don't have to be a superhero. You just have to be uniquely situated to solve the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I wanted to ask a little bit further back. You talked about this pain point of, you had 4 kids and you saw, you and your male counterparts were starting at the same place. And then you went out on various maternity leaves. They ended up whatever rungs higher than you. And then ultimately your choice to leave a circumstance that was just not sustainable. You were bringing up all these, there's so much startup energy in this like world of sort of solving mother problems, essentially.
Yeah.
Are we abandoning the system that doesn't work to build one that's better? Or should you have been able to thrive there?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think there's like so many layers to that, right? There's like,
Yeah.
there's your own personal, demons and stress that you put on yourself. There's like, there's different types of work environments. So I do think, look, what I'll say about my old company, they're like my number one client. They've spread across the country. They're like really trying to do what's right for their working women. But I do think the system across the board, as it pertains to really high risk, high reward jobs, is kind of broken in terms of making sure that women can stay on the same journey. And so we're just trying to rally the troops right now to say like, look, there's enough of us out there that really believe in their careers and what they want to do. Again, not only what they need to do, but they want to do, that it shouldn't be that hard. Like there should be, like ours is logistical. We're solving a logistical problem.
Yeah.
Like logistical problems can be solved. So it's just really getting people bought in on the ROI. It's just they haven't seen the ROI because they've never done it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like but I wouldn't say that. I think that my years and years of experience of working in commercial real estate and like doing so many leases and like understanding the tenant's mindset and like that gave me all the knowledge I needed to be able to do what I'm doing. So that's the way I look at it, where it's like, there's no way I would be able to solve this problem the way I am if I hadn't. You talk about like the really big breast pump companies. They're B2C. Great. They're like, I don't want to replace the at-home pump. I am completely focused on providing a work grade pump, right? The most equitable working pumping option on the market. And so I definitely would have been set up for that if I hadn't had the commercial real estate experience that I had, or the sales experience that I had, or meeting all the people that I met along the way too.
Yeah.
So
totally.
I think you're right. Other people, it's probably true. At some point they can't climb the hill anymore just because it's too hard. Again, what about the people that are sick themselves or have, sick children? Then it becomes almost impossible.
Yeah. But I do like what you're saying and I've been hearing a bunch of stories in interviews or just in my life where people are feeling a sense of impossibility and then they finally are able to take a leap, or they feel stuck. They don't know what's next. Do they even have skills? Of course they do. And then they get they make a big move, or they get the next job, and only then, and often that job is like in a different industry or looks very different than what they were doing. But then they look back and they're like, oh wait, actually all of that really did make sense. Like in the way that you're describing everything you've learned along the way actually really did, as you were talking about, like I was originally like, oh, what a pivot to MilkMate, but it's like not.
No,
This
it
makes a
actually
ton of
makes sense.
sense.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
honestly, where I see a lot of it right now is women that may have chosen for whatever reason to leave the workforce to focus on
Mhm.
family.
Yeah.
And it could have been because like for so many different reasons. And again, I think all women are working women and a lot of my
Yeah.
best friends are stay at home moms, but they are far more organized than I am on
Yeah.
the home
Yeah.
front. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I am taking tips from them all the time. But like
Yeah.
I see a lot in my generation where their kids are starting to graduate high school and it's like, okay, wait, what version of myself do I want to try to
Mhm.
pursue at this time? So, I think there's a lot there too in terms of like all these pivot points. It's like you graduate college, that's a pivot point, and then like, you know, sort of 5 years after college, like where do you want your career to go? And then
Mhm.
if you start a family, where do you want your career to go? And then this empty nester syndrome, like where do you want things to go? And
Oh my
so,
god, yes.
there's it's it's an interesting it's another
Yeah.
interesting season.
Well, it's exciting that you found your way to something that is you're clearly so capable at what you were doing before, but this has the added layer of, you've talked about it with different words, but a real sense of purpose and meaning. And like, this
Yeah.
matters. Like, I don't think you would say legacy, like, but it's a legacy. I mean, if you
No,
made this
that's what I care
standardized,
about.
like, that's
Yeah.
huge.
I
Yeah.
feel like I care about the impact. That's like my main,
Yeah.
thing. We want to build something that's really hugely successful, but also like hugely impactful. And
Yeah.
we want to change the lives of working parents everywhere. That's our mission.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What would
yeah.
little Patrice think of you now?
Oh my God. I don't know. I feel like if I joke around that I'm like, I don't like, I mean, again, communications and film studies, like who knew that I was going to be, you know, the owner of a breast pump company. So,
Yeah.
um, I actually, and it's funny to think about it that way. So
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe there's a documentary in here that
yeah, we'll
little
see.
Patrice will run. Yes. Yes. I
There'll
love
be
it.
a lot of roller coasters along the way. So,
I love it.
but thank you, Sarah.
Yes, there's one we like to close with these little questions, two
Okay,
quick
sure.
ones.
Okay.
One is a retrospective a little bit, but if you could think back to your new mom self, is
Yeah.
there anything you'd want to say to that wonderful woman who's doing her best?
Oh, I think definitely that you're going to love this. I was like, honestly, when I was
Aw.
pregnant with my first, I was like, I was like to my mom, I was like, I don't think I could do this. And she was like, well, there's only one way out of it. And so I didn't think I'm not like super like motherly or whatever, but I never thought that I would love infants the way that I did. And
Yeah.
I wish I had had more. So I would say
Aw.
you're going to love that part of it. And and you're going to be okay. And, um, just keep trying. So it's like, go back to work and see if it works. Go back to work
Yeah.
the second time, see if it works. Go back to work the third time, see if it
Yeah.
works. And don't put so much pressure on yourself. That's probably what I would say.
Mm. I'd say that to myself now too.
Yeah. Sleep more, party
Um,
less.
yes. All right. I can't believe you have 4 kids. Your 4 kids might listen to this one day and be like, my
Yes.
mom's such a badass.
I don't know.
Anything
Yeah.
you want to say to them?
I know it's so interesting because I feel like my daughters especially are like, oh God, I don't want to talk about what you do. They think it's weird.
Oh, huh.
Well, right now they think it's weird because they're 12 and
Yeah.
14. Or
Yeah.
I do, I just always, what I'm constantly saying is that I want them to show up as the best versions of themselves. Like, I don't care
Mhm.
if they choose to, whatever they choose to be. I just want them to find something that they can be passionate about. And I always want them to feel what it feels like to work really hard for something. And then, you know, because it's like the best feeling in the world to get to the end zone of something and feel that you worked really hard, you practiced really hard. And that's the only way for you to
Yeah.
feel that sense of success. And so I probably would say to them, like, I just want you to find something that you can be passionate about and work hard and feel that feeling of success. And, we talk about this all the time. They know that like I had to be away a lot and, I feel bad about that a lot of times, but hopefully they'll realize that we were just trying to do this for them
Yes.
at the end of the day.
Yes.
So
And don't quit.
yeah, don't quit. I'll send you the poem that was off that
Just kidding.
funeral program.
Please quit all the time.
Like speaking to
Quit
me
for
from
something
the graves,
meaningful.
basically,
Yes. Yes.
And the man in the arena was the other one, which is basically,
Oh my God. I
both
mean, I
of
have it
those-
right here.
yeah, those are all about just not
Yes.
looking. And so try, and even if you fail, at least you've tried. That's the
Oh
main
my
thing.
God. Yes.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, what else are we doing here? Yes.
exactly.
That was my awakening when I decided to leave Google. I was like, I'm totally satisfied here, but like the end of my life, am
Yeah,
I going to look back and be like, this is how I spent my days?
right. Exactly.
Um, and for a while, it's fine to spend them those ways, but at a certain point, you want something a little bit different. So,
No,
anyways, Patrice, thank you for spending this day, or at least an hour of your day with me.
yes, I could have spent many more hours. Thank you so much for having me. I
Yes,
love what you're
this is
doing.
wonderful.
I'm
Thank you. I
honored to
appreciate that.
be a part of your tribe.
Oh my God. Likewise. Likewise. And go MilkMate. We'll throw all the
Yes,
details
you
about it.
too.
Everyone that's listening, starting businesses, make sure MilkMate is involved and
Yeah,
tell your
happy to
employer that
chat.
they need them.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks,
Well,
Sarah.
take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Patrice, thank you so much for joining us in the middle of building something massive, very busy life, doing important things, in the workplace and also obviously at home. But MilkMate, I'm so excited to see it soar. A few things from our conversation I wanted to hit on again. One, I love this. I want it to be a theme. And it's always interesting to figure out how to talk about marriage in the context of a public podcast. But I'm really grateful anytime it comes up because how we are with our partners, if we are partnered up, is really important. And I am saddened when I hear a lot of stories about how the level of support going in either direction is not what I would expect it to be. Partnership is everything. I think a lot of the companies that I see successfully growing are backed by partners. And not necessarily that they're literally working together, but often some of them they are. I think Swell was it. Sarah's husband was working for the company and then also officially working for the company for a long time. Patrice, this seemed to be true as well. All credit to her husband for helping to refine the ideas and think about how to position things. So partners, be partners, empower each other, support each other, trust each other, talk to each other. It goes beyond, this is all a success. A marriage is its own business. It's a loving, wonderful business, but it matters. And our partnerships really do inform how our kids feel and also how our businesses grow. So partnership is everything. The other piece is similar but different flavor. But I loved, as I said in the conversation, the different nudges that happen along a person's life that really add up to kind of where they have reached in this moment. Patrice talked a lot about her dad in many great ways. Also, we'll talk about it lastly, this idea of don't quit. But all these mentors in our lives, I feel like if you're out there and you have wisdom to share and you see someone who's trying to pursue something or is curious about something or unsure about something, show up and give them your time. You don't have to have an answer. And I think preferably don't be absolute in your advice, but these mentors matter a lot. I often think about us women and others too, but in this context, a lot of women who are trying to pursue things that they don't have a lot of models for. And so they're in many ways doing it for the first time. And I know a lot of us can feel that outside of being a woman. But if you're seeing someone trying something new and you have any form of expertise to offer, I think just show up and listen and make yourself available. And it doesn't have to be in a formal capacity, but I think especially even in the earliest ages, those really matter. It almost certainly matters what you say. It matters most how you say it. And then also just the idea that you're willing to share your time with someone who's so, at the early stages of trying to pursue something, that just matters so much. So mentor if you can. And then I also wanted to unpack, maybe we need to get Mel Robbins on here and talk about this, but the idea of don't quit and all the other messages that us sort of millennial plus or minus folks absorbed from our prior generations. And I think every generation has something they've absorbed and many things. But Patrice repeatedly talking about the role of her father and this messaging around don't quit and how she stuck it out at CBRE for many reasons beyond just that, but also this idea that like when the going got hard, we don't quit. And I really do admire that. I think that resilience is key. It's something I model. It's how I operate. I'm not a quitter. And yet there are moments where it's less about quitting and it's more about pursuing something new. And I think opening ourselves up to seeing quitting in a different light as the gateway to something new and next and better is really important. And quitting is not giving up. Quitting, especially, it's opening a door. Of course, if we treat it that way. So anyways, partnership, mentors, and maybe quit sometimes or trust yourself to quit. Those are my takeaways. Patrice, again, thank you so much. It was a joy to talk to you. I can't wait to meet you someday in real life. I might almost go and try to have a kid and lactate at work so I can put milk or deal with MilkMate. And hopefully the mothers will be big enough one day where we have an office and we have a MilkMate, a little MilkMate section. All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and we can reach even more rock stars like you. The Mothers is a production of Backline Media, shining a light on those who carry the team.